Hi, yes, sorry for the lack of content over the last few days. Had a really frustrating thing. I actually had this video that's supposed to come out about 3 or 4 days ago, but it failed to upload. Redid it, and then realised that it was recording through the wrong microphone, so here we are, third time lucky. Now, what I'm going to talk about today is I actually think Undisputed, as in the Fury versus Anthony Joshua Undisputed fight, I think is either a very long way away, but more likely, I'm not sure it will ever happen for Undisputed. Allow me to explain. So, Anthony Joshua's route at the moment, we're talking about his first fight, is obviously, when all this coronavirus thing is over and done with, is Kubrat Pulev for the IBF mandatory. Now, that is, I think, an easy-ish fight for Joshua, providing he's not too timid, providing he's not too gun-shy, which we don't know yet. But I think providing he's the old school, forward, sort of front foot, aggressive AJ, I think he'll get the job done. Followed by that is the WBO mandatory in Alexander Usyk, which by many people is widely renowned as probably one of the, if not the best cruiserweight of all time. So that is in no way, I think, a foregone conclusion. In fact, if you have that 50-50, I wouldn't say you're mad. I understand the size of Joshua can and may well come into it, but would you be surprised if he gets rings boxed around him and possibly even stopped late? I couldn't say as I would be. Followed by Matchroom then lining up, who would probably fit into the WBA mandatory if it gets called around that time, if not as a voluntary, someone like a Michael Hunter. So they would be, I would imagine, the next 3 fights for Joshua, judging by the way things are going. So you have Pulev, Usyk and Hunter. Now, Pulev, a top 10 contender, top 15 at worst over the last sort of 10 years steadily. So that is, not an easy fight in its own right. Followed by, as I say, Alexander Usyk, probably one of the best of his generation. I mean, that is in no way a foregone conclusion. I don't know why on earth people are looking past that fight. Followed by someone who I think is, and I think I'll probably mention this before on this channel, I believe is sort of the dictionary definition of an upsetter in Michael Hunter. Would I be confident that Joshua comes through all 3 of those fights? Maybe. I wouldn't be putting my house on it, that's for certain. I really wouldn't be. I mean, that is not an easy 3 fights, and then you've obviously got Fury. Fury's got the Wilder rematch. Now, the longer Wilder seems to get to sort his team out, to sort his head out, and to sort his training, and to make the necessary adjustments out, that benefits Wilder. And the longer that there's a gap between, the second fight and the third fight, the less that really, fancies Fury, because Fury obviously does not stay in shape. His mental health is fragile. If anyone's going to benefit from this, it's going to be Wilder. So the longer that there is this break going on, the more that this benefits Wilder. So would I say that you're mad if you pick Wilder in the third fight? Based on the way the first 2 have gone, I'd say, it might not be wise to pick Wilder, but I certainly wouldn't call you mad for doing so. So I don't think that's a foregone conclusion at all. After that, he would then have to face the WBC mandatory, which is obviously Dillian Whyte. Again, I don't think that's a foregone conclusion. I don't think it's the most difficult fight for Fury, though. If he keeps it long, if he boxes sort of the negative back foot game that he usually used to, I think if he fights like that against Whyte, then I think that's probably a reasonably easy 12-round decision. Don't get me wrong, there might be a scare in there, but I think if Fury's on his A game, I think he can mitigate and deal with Dillian Whyte. And then following on that, from that as the third fight, ESPN are sizing up Jarrell Miller and have basically promised him a shot after Dillian Whyte. Now, again, we don't know what he looks like without the Endurodol and the EPO in his system, so we don't know what he'll look like, but it's fair to say if he's anything like his former self, he'll be a handful, he'll come forward. Yes, I would expect the faster, more fleet-footed Fury to pepper him with jabs. In a similar way, I could see him boxing Whyte, really. But again, that's not necessarily a foregone conclusion, particularly if Jarrell Miller is anything like he was before, which, I'll be honest, I'm not sure he will be, but if he is, he could be a handful. So, leading on to what I'm saying is that I expect the Joshua-Fury fight to be probably the 4th fight after these. And as I said, from these 6 fights, would I be surprised if one of them got upset? Absolutely not. I mean, would you put your house on Fury beating Wilder, Whyte and Miller back to back? And would you put your house on Joshua beating Pulev, Usyk, Hunter back to back? No, I certainly wouldn't. Don't get me wrong, I think they're favourites in all those fights. I don't think there's any fight... I mean, don't get me wrong, if the Usyk fight, you could argue is close to a 50-50. I mean, I think probably I'd make Joshua a slight favourite in that, but I mean, as I said, I still don't think that those, the next set of fights that both fighters have got coming up are particularly easy fights or foregone conclusions in their own right. So I think that might be an issue. I really could be. And the longer that this situation goes on in the world with the coronavirus, I mean, the Wilder fight and the Pulev fight could not be until the end of the year or start of next year. I mean, then that puts everything back, and it means that even if they do win these fights, we're not liable to see this until the back end of 2020, and that's if Fury and Joshua get through those fights. So it does make you wonder what could happen with this Undisputed. And another thing that I think I will just note here, I'm not certain how much longer Tyson Fury has left in the boxing game, not just from an interest point of view and a hunger point of view, but the body. I've actually done a similar thing in my life. I've blown up, and I'm now on my sort of way of trying to get back down. But one thing I've noticed is when you really blow up, you suffer from injuries that you never suffered from before. Your body is just not the same as it was, and your body really does struggle. I think that Tyson Fury, what is he now, 31, 32, he is probably coming out of his physical prime now, and I think by the time we could see this Joshua fight, I think there is a very good chance that Tyson Fury will be over the hill. I really do. And one thing I will say is I am confident that this weight gain, I think it could age Fury overnight. I really do. I think one fight he will seem himself, and another fight he will just not be himself. And as I'm saying, if he's got to fight Wilder, White and Miller over the next 2 years, and he ages overnight, one of those three could find him out, truth be told. So that is a concern if I was a Fury fan, I would be having. And from the Joshua point of view, I mean, Usyk and Hunter, I think are two very difficult fights for Anthony Joshua, I really do. Obviously, particularly the Usyk fight, but don't get me wrong, I would not be putting my house on him beating Michael Hunter either, because I think Michael Hunter is a very skilled and very, very sneaky heavyweight. So let me know what you think. I understand that this might not be the most popular take, but I'm just saying that I think that if we do see Undisputed, and it is Fury versus Joshua, it could well be the back end of 2022 at the rate things are going, and that is optimistic. So let me know what you're thinking, whether you agree with me, whether you disagree with me. If you like this, give it a like. If you dislike it, leave it a dislike. But otherwise, take care.